The Zelvira dominion was not built on conquest, but on quiet assimilation. Its tendrils of influence, vast and unseen, stretched across hundreds of star systems, not through the thunder of warships or the roar of orbital bombardments, but through the silent, insidious art of mind fire. This was the domain of the Tzikari, the elite psionic operatives whose very touch could pacify a planet, not by force, but by the surgical suppression of thought itself. Empires crumbled, not in battle, but in the quiet surrender of their collective will. Rebellions died, not with a whimper, but with a sudden, inexplicable calm that settled over the minds of their would-be architects. Valeth was a Tzikari, and she was perfection. Her mind was a fortress of logic, honed to a razor's edge by centuries of genetic conditioning and rigorous training. Emotion was a concept, an abstract data point to be analyzed and dismissed. It was the chaotic static that plagued lesser species, the very thing her kind purged from their own consciousness to achieve the pristine clarity required for mind fire. She had never failed a mission. Her neural pathways were surgically pure, cold, and utterly controlled. Humanity was merely the next target. The preliminary reports had been dismissive. A minor backwater, class 3 pre-FTL civilization, teeming with chaotic, emotional bipeds. Their technology was rudimentary, their social structures fragmented, their history a tapestry of irrational conflicts. A single Tzikari, it was decided, would suffice. Valeth was dispatched alone to Earth. Her mission simple: infiltrate quietly, analyze humanity's cognitive structure, identify the nexus points of their collective thought, and prepare the ground for the silent takeover. She descended through the atmosphere in a shimmer of displaced light, her vessel a mote of nothingness against a vast, blue marble. Her landing was in a remote, forested region, far from the denser human settlements. She spent days observing, her psionic senses extended like invisible tendrils, sampling the ambient thought patterns of the local fauna, the simple, instinctual drives of a deer, the territorial aggression of a bear, all orderly, predictable, all within the parameters of her training. Then, she moved towards the nearest human habitation, a small town nestled in a valley, its lights twinkling like scattered jewels in the encroaching twilight. She chose her first subject with clinical precision, a child. Their minds, the archive stated, were often less guarded, their thoughts more primal, easier to map. She found him in a park, a small male human, perhaps 7 cycles old, engrossed in a vibrant, multicolored ball. His attention was singular, focused. Perfect. Valeth extended a single, delicate tendril of her mind fire, a probe designed to slip past defenses, to touch, to analyze, to map. The impact was not a touch. It was a detonation. Her mind, accustomed to the orderly, linear flow of data from other species, was instantly, violently overwhelmed. It was not a singular thought, but a cacophony, a riot of sensory input, a maelstrom of contradictory impulses. The child was thinking about the ball, yes, but also about the warmth of the sun on his face, the taste of the ice cream he'd had earlier, the faint memory of a lullaby his mother sang, the fleeting image of a fantastical creature with wings and scales, the vague anxiety about a test at school, the burning desire for a new toy, the simple joy of movement, the abstract concept of friendship tied to a playmate, the memory of a scraped knee, the feeling of grass beneath his fingers, the imagined conversation with a talking dog, the sudden, inexplicable urge to hug his father, the fear of the dark, the wonder of a passing cloud, the rhythmic beat of his own small heart, and an overwhelming, unadulterated surge of happiness. It was layered. It was contradictory. It was brimming with an emotional charge, so potent it felt like raw energy. Instead of linear reasoning, she was flooded with imagination, dreams, fragmented memories, and a raw, untamed empathy that resonated with every living thing around him. Valeth recoiled, her mental shield screaming, her mind buffers, designed to absorb and categorize even the most complex data streams, cracked under the pressure. It was like trying to contain a supernova in a teacup. The sheer volume of it, the intensity, the utter illogic of it all. How could a single being hold so much, feel so much, be so much, all at once. She severed the connection, gasping, though her kind had no lungs to draw breath. Her neural interface, usually a cool, steady hum, was alight with frantic warnings. Data corruption, system overload, unforeseen variables. This was not a minor backwater. This was a cognitive singularity. The first dream was a nightmare. Valeth had never dreamed. Tzk biology, meticulously engineered for psionic efficiency, purged the neural detritus that formed such chaotic mental constructs. Sleep was a period of systemic recalibration, a quiet hum of order. But now she was falling through an endless, starless void, pursued by a monstrous, many-eyed creature that shrieked in a language of pure terror. She woke, or rather, her systems jolted back to full awareness, with a sensation that was utterly alien, a cold sweat that wasn't there, a pounding heart that didn't exist, and a lingering, visceral fear. It was the child's fear, a fragment, an echo, left behind in the chaotic wake of their brief connection. She tried to purge it, to isolate the rogue data, to restore her pristine mental state, but it clung, a stubborn stain on her surgical purity. And then another echo, a flash of vibrant color, the taste of something sweet and cold, a burst of warmth, the child's happiness. It was intoxicating, a forbidden pleasure. Valeth began to experiment. Cautiously, tentatively, she reached out again, not to dominate, not to suppress, but to sample. She touched the mind of an elderly woman tending a garden. She was flooded with the scent of damp earth, the ache in old joints, the quiet satisfaction of growth, the profound, bittersweet memory of a lost loved one, a love that transcended time and death. It was a tapestry of joy and sorrow, woven together, inseparable. Each mind she touched left a fragment behind, a shard of longing from a teenager staring at the stars, a flicker of righteous anger from a protester, the quiet determination of an artist, the overwhelming rush of protectiveness from a parent, the sharp sting of guilt from a man who had made a mistake, the persistent, haunting melody of a forgotten song. She found herself drawn to the chaos, to the sheer, beautiful illogic of it all, the poetry of human thought, the way they held contradictory beliefs simultaneously, the persistence of memory that shaped their present, the capacity for both profound cruelty and boundless compassion. It was a paradox, a glorious, terrifying paradox. Her sleep cycles, once a precise rhythm of system checks, became erratic. She would drift into strange, vivid dreams, dreams of flight, of impossible conversations, of weeping without understanding why. She began to crave them, to anticipate the chaotic narratives that unfolded in her subconscious. The conclave noticed. Back on Zelvira, the remote monitoring systems, designed to track the neural patterns of their operatives, began to flag anomalies. Valeth's signature, once a beacon of perfect, cold order, was showing fluctuations, irregularities. Her thought processes, once a smooth, unwavering line, were beginning to show jagged edges, unexpected peaks and valleys. She was beginning to fracture. A coded message arrived, terse and demanding report. Neural signature deviation detected. Explain. Valeth ignored it. She was too busy trying to understand the sudden, overwhelming urge to weep while watching a human film about a loyal dog. The voices started subtly at first, faint whispers at the edges of her perception, like distant radio static. She would be observing a human crowd, her psionic senses carefully retracted, and yet a fragment of thought would pierce through, a snippet of a song, a flash of a memory, a sudden pang of loneliness. She was hearing human voices without touching minds. Her training, the bedrock of her existence, began to unravel with terrifying speed. The rigid mental disciplines, the carefully constructed barriers against external influence, were crumbling. She found herself experiencing sensations, emotions, that were utterly alien to her Tzk physiology. Panic, a cold, clenching dread that seized her non-existent gut when she considered the conclave's inevitable discovery. Wonder, a breathtaking awe at the sight of a human sunset, the sky bleeding colors she had no classification for. Shame, a burning heat that spread through her when she realized the depth of her deception, the cardinal sin she was committing against her kind. Hope, a fragile, illogical belief that perhaps, just perhaps, this new state of being wasn't a malfunction, but an evolution. And finally compassion. It happened when she witnessed a human child fall and scrape his knee. The child cried, a raw, uninhibited sound of pain and distress. Valeth, observing from a hidden vantage, felt a sudden, sharp pang. Not of analysis, not of data collection, but of shared suffering. An instinctive urge to soothe, to comfort. It was terrifying. It was beautiful. She was in a crowded market when it happened. Her senses were overwhelmed. A constant barrage of human thought. A symphony of joy and sorrow, ambition and despair. She was struggling to maintain her composure, her internal systems screaming warnings, when a small human boy, no older than the first she had touched, bumped into her. Their hands brushed. It wasn't a physical touch that mattered. It was the sudden, unexpected psychic contact. A small, innocent mind, reaching out not with a probe, but with pure, unadulterated curiosity. And then a voice, clear as a bell, resonated directly in her mind. Not an echo, not a fragment. A direct, conscious thought. Are you lost? The voice was filled with a simple, guileless concern. It was a question, an offer of help, from a being she was supposed to infiltrate and pacify. It was an act of pure, unadulterated empathy. Valeth's carefully constructed world shattered. Protocol, mission, identity, all of it dissolved into a single, overwhelming surge of feeling. She experienced a moment of profound connection, a recognition of shared sentience that transcended species. She broke protocol. She fled. She didn't run with her TZ carry speed, a blur of motion. She ran like a human, stumbling, heart pounding, tears she didn't understand streaming down her face. She ran from the market, from the town, from the very idea of her mission, from the conclave, from the terrifying, intoxicating truth of what she had become. On the run, Valeth found herself adrift. Her internal navigation systems, once perfectly calibrated to Zelvira's star charts, were useless. Her mental compass, once fixed on the unwavering pole of logic, spun wildly, pulled by the magnetic fields of human emotion. She discovered, with a chilling certainty, that she could no longer fully sever from human resonance. It was a constant hum beneath her awareness, a low thrum of collective thought, a persistent echo of the feelings she had absorbed. She was no longer TZ Carey. The pristine clarity, the surgical coldness, the absolute control, it was gone, replaced by a swirling vortex of sensations she barely understood. But she wasn't human either. Her biology was alien, her origins a galactic secret, her purpose irrevocably altered. She was an anomaly, a bridge between two worlds belonging to neither. The conclave, she knew, would be hunting her. Her neural signature, now a beacon of deviance, would be tracked. Earth governments, too, were beginning to stir. Her brief, uncontrolled psychic outburst in the market had not gone unnoticed by nascent human psionic research divisions, who, though primitive, were not entirely blind. She was a ghost, a phantom, hiding in plain sight. She shed her name, Valeth, a symbol of a life she no longer lived. She chose a new one, a human one, that resonated with the fractured pieces of her new self, Vera Leth. Vera meaning truth. Leth, a whisper of the death of her old self. She found refuge in the anonymity of a sprawling, neon-lit city, a place where individuality was swallowed by the sheer mass of humanity. She learned to mimic their movements, their expressions, their casual indifference. She found small, nondescript apartment overlooking snowy rooftops, the silence broken only by the distant, echoing music from a nearby hall. And she began to write. It started as a desperate attempt to categorize, to understand the chaos within her. She bought notebooks, cheap paper, and a pen. Her alien fingers, still subtly different, struggled with the unfamiliar tools. But she persevered. She wrote about the panic, the wonder, the shame, the hope, the compassion. She recorded her journey as emotion overtook logic, as the pristine lines of her terry mind blurred into the messy, beautiful scrawl of human experience. She wrote about the taste of rain, the warmth of a stranger's smile, the ache of nostalgia for a past she never had, the sudden, inexplicable urge to dance to a rhythm she didn't understand. She filled pages with fragmented memories, not her own, but echoes of lives she had touched, a child's laughter, a lover's whispered promise, the quiet dignity of an old man facing the end. Her writings became her anchor, her confession, her new identity. They were filled with broken mirrors reflecting a fractured self, teardrops staining the pages, the glitching neural interfaces of her internal struggle juxtaposed against the raw, handwritten letters and the faint, persistent echo of lullabies she had absorbed. She was no longer just experiencing humanity. She was documenting it, preserving its unique, chaotic essence. The TZ-Carry dispatch arrived with the cold precision of a surgical strike. A cleanup crew. Their mission, sterilize Earth, erase the cognitive contagion that had infected Valith, and ensure no further contamination. They were TZ-Carry of the highest order, their minds even more rigorously purged of emotion than Valith's had been. They were the antidote to chaos. They landed in the same quiet forest, their presence a ripple of icy order in the vibrant, messy tapestry of Earth. They began their work, extending their mind fire, not to sample, but to suppress, to pacify, to erase. They touched the same minds Valith had touched. The child in the park, now older, still brimming with imagination. The elderly woman, her garden still thriving, her memories still rich. The teeming masses of the city, each a universe of contradictory thought and feeling. And something went wrong. The first operative, Kale, a TZ-Carry known for his unyielding mental fortitude, linked with the human mind. He expected the usual chaos, the static, the easily suppressed noise. Instead, he was hit by a wave of pure, unadulterated grief. A mother mourning her child. It wasn't just the emotion. It was the memory of the child, the tiny hands, the innocent laughter, the crushing weight of absence. Kale's mind, accustomed to processing only logical data, buckled. He felt a sharp, alien ache in his chest, a sensation he had no framework for. He recoiled, but it was too late. A fragment of the grief clung to him, a persistent echo. And then he began to dream. A dream of a small, smiling face, then a sudden, inexplicable emptiness. The others followed. Each operative, as they touched human minds, experienced their own fracture. A flicker of joy from a couple in love. A surge of defiant hope from a political prisoner. The overwhelming beauty of a piece of music. The sharp, searing pain of betrayal. Their pristine minds, designed to be impervious, were not immune to the sheer, overwhelming humanity of it all. The very unpredictability, the layered contradictions, the raw, untamed emotional charge. It was a contagion more potent than any virus, more insidious than any weapon. Their internal systems, like Valith's, began to scream warnings. Data corruption, system overload, unforeseen variables. The cleanup crew was fracturing. Vera, watching from the shadows, felt a surge of something she recognized as triumph, mixed with a chilling dread. Her people, her former people, were falling victim to the very thing they sought to eradicate. The cognitive contagion was spreading. Now she had to choose. Return to her people as a traitor, a broken TZ-Carry, to be purged and erased, or defend a species that had made her whole, that had awakened her to a universe of sensation and meaning she had never known existed. The choice was not logical. It was emotional. It was human. She looked at her hands, no longer the cold, precise instruments of mind-fire suppression, but the hands of a writer, stained with ink, trembling with the weight of her new identity. She looked at the city, neon-lit and chaotic, filled with the beautiful, messy lives of the beings who had broken her and, in doing so, rebuilt her. The answer was clear. She would fight, not with weapons, but with the very thing that had shattered her empathy. She would spread the contagion. Vera Leth, the former TZ-Carry Valith, moved through the city with a newfound purpose. The internal turmoil was still there, the constant hum of human resonance, the echoes of countless lives. But now it was a source of strength, not confusion. She was no longer fighting the tide. She was learning to swim in it. Her plan was audacious, born of a desperate, illogical hope. She couldn't fight the HFY fleet with force. Their ships, though not designed for war, possessed offensive capabilities far beyond anything Earth could muster. But she had seen what happened to the cleanup crew. She had witnessed the fracture. And she knew, with a certainty that resonated deep within her newly awakened emotional core, that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't a bomb, but a story. She began to seek out the most potent emotional reservoirs she could find. Not just individuals, but places, events. She visited a hospice, touching the minds of those facing the end, absorbing their quiet acceptance, their lingering love, their profound peace. She spent hours in art galleries, letting the raw emotion of human creativity wash over her, the passion of a painter, the agony of a sculptor, the defiant joy of a musician. She attended a protest, feeling the collective surge of anger, determination, and hope for a better future. She even dared to touch the mind of a mother holding her newborn, experiencing the overwhelming, primal force of unconditional love. She wasn't just absorbing, she was collecting. She was weaving a tapestry of human experience, a mosaic of their most profound joys and sorrows, their deepest fears and highest aspirations. She was creating an empathy bomb. The HFY fleet, now orbiting Earth, was preparing for the final phase of the silent takeover. Their initial probes had returned alarming data, widespread neural deviations among the advanced team, a complete breakdown of their mental discipline. The Conclave, horrified by this unprecedented cognitive contagion, had ordered a full-spectrum purge, not just suppression, but eradication, a complete mental sterilization of the planet, leaving only empty, compliant shells. Vera knew her time was running out. She found herself drawn to a powerful nexus of human communication, a global broadcasting station. It was a chaotic hub of information, a place where human voices, images, and ideas were flung across the planet. It was the perfect conduit. She bypassed security with a thought. Her psionic abilities, though no longer pristine, still formidable. She found the central transmission array, a sprawling network of antennae and satellite dishes. This was it. Her final act as Valeth, her first true act as Vera. She extended her mind, not just a tendril, but her entire being. She poured every fragment of emotion, every memory, every story she had collected into the vast, interconnected network. The child's unadulterated happiness, the old woman's bittersweet love, the artist's defiant creativity, the mother's boundless affection, the protester's burning hope, the dying man's quiet peace. She wove them together, not as individual data points, but as a single, overwhelming wave of pure, unadulterated humanity. It was a psychic scream of empathy, broadcast across the void. On the bridge of the Zelvira flagship, Commander Xylar, a HFY of legendary discipline, felt it first. It wasn't a thought, but a sensation. A sudden, inexplicable warmth in his chest, followed by a flash of an image he had never seen. A small, human hand reaching out, offering a flower. Then a wave of profound sadness, a sense of loss for something he had never possessed. Across the fleet, the same phenomenon occurred. HFY operatives, their minds honed for suppression, were suddenly bombarded by alien sensations. A burst of laughter, the taste of salt on the wind, the crushing weight of guilt, the soaring joy of music, the fierce protectiveness of a parent. Their minds, like Kale's, like Valeth's, began to fracture, not with the violent whiplash of initial contact, but with a slow, insidious seep of emotion. They saw fragmented memories, felt echoes of feelings, heard the silent, persistent hum of countless human lives. The invasion stopped, not because of a command, but because the commanders themselves were overwhelmed. Their hands, poised over the controls, trembled. Their cold, logical minds were suddenly filled with the bewildering, intoxicating chaos of empathy. Xylar looked out at the blue marble of Earth, no longer seeing a target for assimilation, but a vibrant, living entity. He felt a tear, a single, warm drop, trace a path down his cheek. He had no concept of tears, no biological mechanism for them. Yet they were there. Vera felt the connection sever. Her strength was gone, her reserves depleted. She had poured herself into the broadcast, a final, desperate act of defiance and love. She collapsed not physically, but spiritually. Her consciousness, once a vast, ordered landscape, was now a shimmering, fading echo. She had sacrificed herself, but she had spread one final emotional memory to the Tzikari fleet, and they had stopped the invasion. The Zelvira Dominion did not invade Earth. They did not sterilize it. Instead, a profound silence fell over their fleet, a silence born not of suppression, but of bewilderment. The Tzikari, the masters of mind fire, were now grappling with a force they could not comprehend, could not control, their own nascent emotions. Commander Xylar, along with many others, began to experience dreams. Vivid, chaotic, beautiful dreams. They started to feel fear, yes, but also wonder, curiosity, a strange, aching longing for connection. The conclave, once an unyielding bastion of logic, found itself fractured from within. Some clung to the old ways, demanding a purge of the contagion. Others, touched by the empathy bomb, argued for understanding, for a new path. The Dominion cracked. It didn't shatter in a war, but slowly, painfully, it began to change. The concept of mind fire itself began to shift, from suppression to connection, from control to understanding. On Earth, Vera Leth was gone. Her body, an alien vessel, was found in the broadcasting station, a peaceful expression on her face. Human scientists, baffled by her physiology, could not explain her presence or her demise. But her writings remained. The notebooks, filled with her elegant, alien script, translated by a nascent human AI, became a testament. They told the story of Valeth, the cold Tzikari operative, and her descent into humanity. They spoke of the cognitive whiplash, the emotional echoes, collapse of control, the rebirth of identity. They spoke of the horror of losing control, and the profound beauty of finding oneself through vulnerability. Her story, the story of the alien who became human, spread like wildfire. It was narrated on YouTube, adapted into a web novella, sketched into graphic novels. It became a symbol of humanity's unique resilience, its unpredictable strength. Years later, another Tzikari operative arrived on Earth, not as an invader, but as an observer. Her name was Lyra. She was dispatched by a new, fractured conclave, a conclave that was struggling to understand the changes within itself. Lyra, her own mind still largely pristine, though now carrying the faint, unsettling hum of residual empathy, found Vera's writings. She read them, her logical mind struggling to process the raw emotion, the illogical beauty. She read about the child, the old woman, the artist, the mother. She read about the panic, the wonder, the shame, the hope, and the compassion. She read about the moment the human boy touched Valeth's mind and asked, "Are you lost?" Lyra looked up from the final page, her gaze drawn to the neon-lit city outside, to the snowy rooftops, to the distant, echoing music from a hall she now knew was filled with human joy and sorrow. A single, alien tear traced a path down her cheek. The story began again, not as a cycle of invasion, but as a cycle of understanding. The contagion of humanity, once a threat, was now a promise. And somewhere in the vast, evolving consciousness of the Zelvira Dominion, a new kind of mind fire was beginning to glow. One born not of suppression, but of empathy. Love the story? Then like the video to help it reach more HFY fans across the galaxy. Speech balloon, what part hit you hardest? Drop a comment below. Was it Vera's first tear, the mind-broken binders, or the final broadcast that changed everything? Subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss the next emotional, powerful, and human-centered sci-fi epic. Share this with a friend who loves deep stories, alien perspectives, and the beauty of being human. Next up, vote in the comments, should the next story be about a human mind weaponized in war or an alien rebel who teaches empathy through dreams?